The following is a paid advertisement. The views expressed are the sole responsibility of the advertiser.
Put the power back in your hands. This is Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark.
Welcome to Behind the Law and happy weekend to you. We are here to answer any questions that you have. We're here live, 321-282-1055. As always, we will do it with my beautiful co-host, Makaila Nichols. Makaila, how are you today?
Great, how are you?
You are great, thank you. You are the voice of the people. You are not a lawyer. I am a lawyer. You have questions that the non-lawyers at home who watch the show, easy for me to say, may have. Mm-hmm. Isn't that right?
That's about right.
Here's what's coming up today. It's going to be an exciting show. Father's rights. When you have a child, as a father, and the mother, and you're not married, are you technically the father or not? The answer might surprise you. Also, premises liability. Let's say you're badly injured inside of a store. Does that store have any liability for that? Also, I'm not even going to tell you. It's a special treat for you. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Here's what we're going to do. Very quick break. When we return, Behind the Law continues. Does credit card debt have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At Attorneys Justin Clark and Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your credit card debt. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life. Welcome back to the show. Have you ever been to a store, you see a puddle, then you see the caution, the little yellow thing, the caution sign there? Or have you been at a store when you've seen someone actually slip and fall in a puddle? Can they recover? I mean, they saw the puddle, they didn't see the puddle. It's a great question, and it's one that the answer is not so simple. I don't know who else I would rather ask than our good buddy Michael Mills, trial attorney, personal injury attorney. Michael, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. Slip and fall.
Yes.
All right. So let's just say we're at the local Kmart, because they don't exist anymore. We use them as an example. And there's a puddle on the floor. I slip and fall, break my arm. Whose fault is that?
Well, it depends.
I figured that might be the answer.
It depends on the store's constructive knowledge, whether or not they knew, and if they knew, did they do anything to prevent the incident from occurring? Did they put out any cones to draw your attention to it? How long had the water been there? Were there any tracks or cart marks through the water? All of the was the person paying attention while they were walking? If they were on their phone, we're in a comparative negligence state, so that could play an impact on it. But overall, there's going to be some liability, especially if the store didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Comparative negligence. I think that's a term that maybe many people at home don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
No, it was a really big word.
I was trying to tee that one up for you to ask the question.
Can you tell me what that is, Michael? Thanks, Justin.
Sure, Michaela. Comparative negligence basically means that in this state, the jury or the court will allot a certain amount of negligence or liability to the person that actually got injured. Okay. So if they were doing something that contributed to their injury, then that is comparative. That portion of their injury is actually taken away from their overall award. So, for instance, easy number's sake, the jury awarded this person $10,000, but found that they were 20% comparatively negligent. As opposed to getting the full $10,000, they'll actually get $8,000 as opposed to $10,000.
So, like, if I spilled water and then I slipped on it, would that be the instance?
You're completely negligent in that.
Got it.
So you get
just
nothing.
making sure.
Right. What if it was wine?
Why would
you spill your own wine?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, you should drink the wine.
Yeah,
you shouldn't be spilling it. Yeah.
So Florida, essentially, I think what you're saying is, even if, let's say I'm 99% at fault, the store's 1%, at that point, can I still recover for the 1%?
You could, if you could find an attorney that would take the case.
I see. I got you.
Yeah. Preferably the store or the premises is more at fault or more liable than you are. Even if they're 50% comparatively negligent, again, on that same numbers case where it's 10,000, then you get 5,000. But you definitely want to make sure that you're not the majority negligent in a case.
Now, I think in some states it doesn't work this way. Not all states have comparative negligence. How do some other states look at it?
Well, some other states, they have contributory negligence. I can't get that out. And in those cases, in fact, I think in Washington, D.C., the Virginia area, I was speaking with a buddy of mine, and if you are even 1% at fault, you don't get anything.
Really? Wow.
Yes. So we're lucky here. We
are lucky. I mean, that's incredible. And by all means, if you have been injured, whether it's a slip and fall, automobile accident, any injury whatsoever, you see a lot of people on TV. You see some of these firms get a little bit busy. What I like about Mike is he's going to personally oversee your case. He's going to meet with you from the beginning. He's always there to answer your call, answer your emails, which honestly can be one of the most important parts of getting you better and getting you the recovery that you deserve, is having his attention on your case. And you can do so by calling 321-282-1055 and do that right now. I'll leave the phone number on the screen. And when we talk about comparative negligence, then Michael, what about an automobile accident? Are things different in an automobile accident versus slip and fall? Is it the same? How does comparative negligence work when it comes to auto accidents?
It's relatively the same. So in an auto accident case, typically if it's a rear end type of accident, the person that rear-ended you is typically presumed to be at fault. Sure. In certain cases where, it's a four-way stop, in those types of cases, if there's no eyewitness, then those can be a little bit more tricky. Mm-hmm. And that's one of those cases where comparative negligence may come into play. Also, if it's a side impact collision where a vehicle was switching lanes, what happens is one person will say, well, I was switching lane first, or the other would say that I was already in the lane. And when it can't be determined, typically comparative negligence will come into play in that sense as well.
So I know the general rule of thumb is that if you rear end someone, it's your fault. But then I've also heard these rumors that there's a group of people out there who will literally be driving down and purposefully just slam their brakes so they can get rear-ended, so they can sue someone. How often do you see something like that happen?
We don't see it a whole lot. Typically, those folks that are trying to get in an accident and trying to pursue a claim in that way, you can typically weed them out pretty easily, especially if they've had multiple accidents with the same type of situation. And if the person that rear-ended them will usually say, we were just driving, he didn't have a reason to stop, or she didn't have a reason to stop, and just slammed on the brakes. So that's usually the first thing that make your spidey senses go off. The officers on scene will also note that in the police report, so that also will prompt the adjuster to do some more investigation into why this accident occurred and how often has this person been in these types of accidents. Got it.
Let's get back to the Kmart, or the K-Mark, as my father called it. That's what he would do as a layaway, or that's where I would do my trading, is what he would say.
Hey, there we go.
Back to the Kmart. Let's say that we are shopping and we have a shopping cart, okay? And this person's coming down the aisle, and I don't have a cart, they have a cart, and they come flying around the corner and they injure me with their shopping cart. Is there any liability there on anyone?
When it's a customer on customer type of situation, that's a little bit more difficult to have a case, because should they have been paying attention? Probably so. Do they have the means by which to compensate you for any injury that you may have caused? I don't know.
Probably not a great case.
Not the best case.
I got you.
A better example would be if that same person knocked over, say, some detergent or some liquids onto the floor, and no one from the store came to clean it up. You're coming along, minding your own business, and you slip and fall in the mess that they caused.
Yep.
Who's at fault? In that situation, it depend on how long the mess had been on the floor.
Yeah.
But that's a stronger case to bring against the premises.
And the last thing in the world I want to do here is try to go back to the one-way aisles. Please, that's not what I'm trying to say here. So
let's
not even a
let's not do that.
And I know there's not a certain time frame of how long the store can leave the detergent on the ground. There's not a specific time, but I imagine it's a reasonable amount of time.
Yes,
but what is that? How do we determine? Who determines what's reasonable?
Well, it's based on that specific situation. If the person, say, gave the store notice and they didn't immediately go and clean it up or put some cones, or it's been there long enough for other folks to track their carts through or footprints through, and that evidence is there that there's footprints, there's cart tracks, and no one did anything about it. That's usually a good indication that it was there for a reasonable amount of time, and the store should have done something to clean it up, or at least protect their folks from falling in.
It makes me nervous sometimes where maybe someone's watching it at home now who this has happened to, and they've called a couple of law firms they see on TV and immediately say, you don't have a case. You don't have a case. Let's say I'm watching at home right now and someone has been told they do not have a case, or we don't think you have a case. That person should still call you, don't you think? Oh,
absolutely. Look, I want the best for my clients, and if it's something that I don't feel is an actual case, I'll let them know and I'll give them the reasons.
Right.
There's plenty of times that I'll get those types of calls, and I'll go through, why I feel that this isn't a case that I can pursue or I can help them with.
Right.
And after I'm done explaining, they'll say, well, you know what, I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking the time, because you're like the third or fourth firm that I've called, and no one has told me why I don't have a case.
Yep.
So I thank you for giving me that time and explaining giving me that information. So
I see it all the time.
Absolutely.
Michael Mills, excellent job as always, buddy. We're going to see you across the hall here in a few minutes. You're going to stick around, right?
Absolutely.
And by all means, look, if you already have a case going, an injury case, and you're not happy with how it's going, it doesn't cost you anything to give Mike a call right now, or especially if you have called a lawyer and they said, you don't have a case, give it another shot. It costs you nothing. And if he does take your case, it costs you not a penny unless he gets you money at the end. 321-282-1055. When we get back, we live in Florida. A lot of people are getting a little bit older here. It feels like we've always been a little bit older here, I guess, but it's very important when you start talking about your parents and having to go to a nursing home. There's a big difference in between them spending all of their savings, which ultimately might have been your inheritance, versus them not spending their savings for the retirement home. We'll tell you about that and plenty more as Behind the Law continues. Does student loan debt have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At attorneys Justin Clark and Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your monthly payments. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life. Many of you have noticed two things. Number one, your electricity bill is out of control. Or number two, your house, your most prized possession, your biggest investment, the windows are not good. The great news for you is we have an option. My good friends at Renewal by Anderson, really the only place to turn to. Dan Brigman's here. Dan, always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, hey, thank you, Justin. It's glad to be here.
The electricity bill in Florida, especially in the summer, is outrageous. And a lot of people don't understand that this has a lot to do with their windows or the lack of quality with the windows they currently have.
Absolutely. We listen to our air conditioners run all day long. And if you think about it, you're looking at a little square piece of glass in your house and you're walking up to it, you feel a little bit of heat, and you don't think much about it. But when you do the math, if you take every window in your house, it's more than 1.5 wall space of your whole house.
It's really unbelievable. And what I've noticed about getting windows through Renewal is that if you really do the math, because you're going to save money on your electricity bill, maybe 20% even, if not more, and you start talking about the programs that you offer in regards to no down payment, very low interest rates, sometimes it's cheaper to actually buy windows than not.
Yeah, you're giving yourself money back when you're buying windows, if you think about it. With the promos we have going on now, buy two, get the third one 60% off, our 12-month no-no, our 24-month no-no. When you put all those in and you get the energy efficient savings that you're going to get from the highest rated Energy Star window in the industry, it just makes mathematical sense.
And you are kind of come in there and help me with the design. You're going to tell me what I need because I don't know.
Absolutely. We're going to show up. Our design consultants are trained specialists. We're not salespeople. We're not going to rub your eyebrows off. We're going to come out. We're going to inspect, and find out what you need and find out what fits your budget.
Always a pleasure, Dan. Do yourself a favor. Call Renewal by Andersen today. They will not disappoint. The official partner of the Jaguars, Tampa Bay Lightning, Orlando Solar Bears. I trust them. So should you. Do IRS threats have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At Attorneys Justin Clark and Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your IRS debt. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life. Welcome back to the show, and as promised, we wanted to address divorce, paternity, all sorts of issues that affect fathers and fathers' rights, but also negligent security. You've always seen reports about someone going down to the local convenience store, something very bad happening to them. Heaven forbid they get killed. Does that store have any liability when it comes to that? No one better to ask than our good friend, attorney Kene. I knew I would do this, Kene. I knew it. I was crushing it before the show, was I not?
You were. You had it 100%.
Anusionwu.
There you go. Perfect.
My man. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Had I known you were so tall, like I said, we probably wouldn't be doing this interview right now, but you're a damn good guy, great lawyer, and we've been really excited about having you on the show today. And let's start here with fathers' rights a little bit. I know you handle a lot of divorce cases, family law type cases, with sort of a focus on fathers' rights. I mean, what does that mean, fathers' rights? Do we have rights?
Yeah, so, Justin, thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Fathers' rights, to me, fathers' rights is a constitutionally protected right? So a lot of people fail to understand that we're civil rights lawyers because we're fighting for civil liberties, and that is the right for a father to spend time with his children. In Florida, unfortunately, it doesn't automatically give a father rights if the father is not married to the mother at the time that the child is conceived and born. So fathers have to advocate, go to court to get those rights. There's a lot of dads that don't know where to go. And I like to put it out there that I'm somebody that will fight for you to make sure that you have time with your children, you have your name added to the birth certificate, you're not extremely taken advantage of when it comes to child support or in child support court, you have the ability to get the assets that you deserve, and ultimately you just have a voice, somebody that will speak for you in court or outside of court or just advocating in general.
Hey, let's transport ourselves right now down to, let's say, Winnie Palmer, okay? And there's a couple there, they're not married, but they are having a child right there at Winnie Palmer Hospital. And not to get graphic, but of course it's clear that the woman is giving birth to the child there at that point. Now the father's there, they're not married, he's the dad, everyone recognizes it, but does that automatically make me the father of that child?
No, in Florida that does not make you the legal father. Well, first of all, in Florida, when a mother is not married and she has a child in the hospital will ask the mother only who the father is.
Really?
Yes, and the mother has the discretion of deciding who she'll put on the birth certificate. Obviously, if the dad is there, they may ask, but it's the mother who makes the decision if she's unmarried. And that comes down to the name and the last name.
Really?
Literally today in court, I was advocating for a dad who just wants to have the last name of the child added. So it's the mother's decision when the parties are unmarried. And oftentimes, the dad won't even know that the mom's giving birth.
Right.
And she picks the name, and then we got to fight to change the name or fight to even have access to the child. So there is a way to have the dad added if the dad is present. There's also something called a long form birth certificate, which is like an affidavit which establishes the dad is legally the father. But just having your name on a regular birth certificate creates a rebuttable presumption of paternity.
Wow.
Yeah, meaning on that paper you says your dad, but that doesn't make you legal dad. That presumption can be rebutted by DNA evidence.
So let's say that we do go down to the hospital and my girlfriend at the time, fiance, whatever it is, has our child. Everything is great. We're giving birth. Of course, we're going to love each other at that point in time. Several months down the road, we have a fight. She says, "You're not the dad. I was just lying to you then. You're not the father." I think this might be groundbreaking news for some people watching the show right now, that technically you're not the father unless you did the long form birth certificate. At that point, I want to prove that I'm dad. I want to prove that I'm the father to this child. What do I do in that situation?
In that situation, you probably should go to the courthouse and file a petition to establish paternity, parental responsibility, and other related relief. Or call somebody like me who's a lawyer that can take care of that for you.
Right.
When you file that and you serve the mother, automatically it puts certain requirements in place, such as the mother can't move, generally speaking, more than 50 miles without your consent or a court order. Or the mother can't generally change the child's school without permission from the court. So it's very important, if a dad doesn't have rights legally and the mother's making him feel subordinate, to get the court involved.
I think the vast majority of people watching at home right now think that if you're there in the hospital room, you sign the birth certificate, you're the dad no matter what. I think people at home think that.
It's not true.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in this state, that is not true. That just creates a rebuttable presumption. And that means that presumptively on that piece of paper, you're the dad, but legally you don't have any rights to prevent mom from doing things.
I mean, in theory, mom could then fly back with the kids to Venezuela without me being able to stop her, I guess.
That is correct. And there's a statute in Florida that says that the mother is deemed the legal guardian of the child because they gave birth to the child, right?
And if you're going through any issues like that, if you're a father out there right now and you're having these questions and you want the answers to these questions, there's one thing you should do, and you should do it right now. I will connect you with Kene right now. 321-282-1055. Literally, you're watching the show right now. You call me now. He will call you directly after this and not charge you one single penny for that call. It's just shocking to me that, you know, I'm at the hospital, I signed the birth certificate, but then I'm really not the dad until I do this other thing in court. But you have to do it. And at what point in time do you recommend fathers to actually do this early on, or they wait till the big fight happens?
You know, it depends. If you're not with the mother and you and her are not living in the same household, you should probably do it.
Yeah.
Even if you and the mom get back together, at least you have some protection.
Right.
You know, if you're not married, you want to have that paperwork in place, because at any time if something goes wrong, mom can get up and leave, and that leaves you in a very compromising position.
Sure does.
You definitely want to have your rights established.
And then how do we decide child visitation, custody? How do we decide those issues once my paternity has been established?
So generally, it's part of the case, right? So it's the petition to establish paternity and parental responsibility and time sharing. In Florida, they don't use the word custody, they use time sharing and parental responsibility. If you and the mom can work that out and put it in writing, sign it and file it, that is generally deemed enforceable once the court enters an order adopting it.
Wow.
Best thing to do. Get that time sharing done as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
The earlier you do it, in my opinion, the easier it is for the child to be used to it and transition. And if they're young, that becomes the norm. You know, I'm not advocating for families to be separated. I'm advocating for two parents to raise a child, whether they're in a household or outside of a household together.
Yeah, as it should be. Interesting.
What if the mom doesn't sign the paper?
Doesn't,
and like they can't come to an agreement, you know, just talking it through. What do you do then?
You have mediation that's required in Florida when there's children involved. And then if it's not resolved at mediation, you set it for a temporary relief hearing or trial. And the judge will make a decision based on the evidence.
How quickly do those trials occur?
They're not quick at all, unfortunately, especially after COVID. Depending on the facts of the case, it could take 6 months to a year to get a trial. You know, in reality, based on the growth in population, we don't have enough judges for the amount of families we have, and the dockets are just clogged up. So it's definitely best for two parents to make a decision, because even if you wait for a judge, that judge is a stranger to your case more than likely. They don't really know you, and they're going to have to make a decision that affects you and your children's life in the space of a few hours.
Right.
You know?
Scary stuff. It really is. And something else that you do that I find fascinating, and we talked about it last week, slip and fall at the local Kmart. I use Kmart because I don't think they exist, and I don't want to, sell anybody out. But what you also see and what you handle a lot is these premises liability cases where maybe someone unfortunately gets shot or killed at a store. Let's use the Kmart as an example. And then sometimes you look at sort of the security that Kmart had, and maybe there's some liability on that store. How does that work?
Yeah, so negligent security, this is an area that I've been doing for the last few years. Family is what I've been doing for the whole time. Negligent security is what I've been doing. And it's mainly because my clients have people they know or they've had issues where they may get injured or someone may get shot or killed at an apartment or a store. Responsibility may fall on apartment complex, store, or H.O.A. depending on the circumstances, right? Why was the person there? Did they have the legal right to be in that place? If they had the legal right to be in that place, then the store owner, the company, then probably has a duty to protect you, right? And then it depends on what actually happened to you. Did it happen in the store? Was it something that they had prior notice of? Did they have an opportunity to fix or cure that problem? Is there a constant issue that's reoccurring that then generally should make them know, or they should have known to fix that problem before you came there and you got hurt?
Right.
Anytime you go into a grocery store, you're considered an invitee, right? You have a right to be there, especially if you're shopping. If you get hurt at that store, depending on, let's say for instance, there's a crazy person running around punching people, right? And this person's been there before and the store had a duty to prevent that person from being there, then they are responsible for protecting you, and potentially you could sue them.
Kene, what a pleasure, buddy. Keep up the good work. Great to see you. We're going to do this again soon.
All right,
my promise to you, and she even got a question in today, which is two questions, and that's fantastic. That means she really likes you. She thinks highly of you, I can tell.
I appreciate that.
Here's what we're going to do. A very quick break. When we return, wait till you see the surprise we have for you coming up on Behind the Law. Does student loan debt have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At attorneys Justin Clark and Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your monthly payments. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life. Do IRS threats have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At attorneys Justin Clark and Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your IRS debt. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life. As always, we wrap it up today with what did we learn? Makaila, what did you learn today?
Justin, what did you learn today?
Why do I start? I thought you normally start this segment.
I mean, we're talking about like parental rights, and like you're a dad, and I'm not, so.
It's a scary thought when you think about as a father, when you're with that person, whether you're engaged or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, you're there in the hospital room, you sign the birth certificate, doesn't mean you're the dad. I just always thought that means, okay, you're dad.
Yeah.
That's very scary. And then if indeed you don't become the father through a paternity action, the mom could just take the kids away to another country and there's not much you can do about it. I think what I learned is if you're a father, you have children and you're not married, you need to do something about it right away.
Yeah, you certainly can't wait on that.
You can't. I don't think that's one of those things to wait on. When it comes to your kids, I would think that you might want to get a little ahead on that, right?
Yeah, you'd imagine.
Excellent job today, Makaila, as always. Thanks to Steve, Philip, not Tyson, because he was late, but mostly thanks to you for joining us here every weekend for Behind the Law. We'll do it again right here, same place and time. More Behind the Law.
The proceeding was a paid advertisement. The views expressed were the sole responsibility of the advertiser.